Hi, this is Larry.
And this is Katie.
And we belong to a CSA, which means that every week we get a bag of fresh produce. And this summer, we're going to make something every week and share it with you, fresh from Spring Hill. Before we start cooking today, I wanted to try our pickled carrots from last week. And you can see these have been in the brine for about 6 or 7 days now, and they're not exactly the same as raw carrots anymore, but I mean, they're more bendy. But when you eat them, they're somehow even crunchier than raw carrots. What I really like is that you can taste each ingredient. The sharpness of the vinegar and the heat from the jalapenos is pretty powerful. But then you can taste the garlic, definitely, and you can taste the lemon as well. This is definitely something I'd do again. Ooh. Okay, one other thing. I have a confession. Katie is away on a trip, and we actually filmed today's episode last week with ingredients from last week's bag. Luckily, we've got all the ingredients for a great red sauce in this week's bag as well. If you don't have zucchini around, you might want to try using the eggplant from this week's bag and seeing how the recipe is that way. All right, let's get to it. Look at all of these beautiful Spring Hill tomatoes. When I see a bunch of tomatoes like this, I think it's time to make red sauce. To start, I'll wash the tomatoes and then plunge them into boiling water so that their skins burst. Then I'll slip the skins right off and throw those away. And then I'll core and chop up these tomatoes. So there are all the tomatoes that were on that cutting board. They've been blanched, peeled, cored, chopped up. And if that seems like a little bit of work, it is, but it's worth it for a fresh red sauce. Now we'll get a pan hot and add a generous amount of olive oil. And we'll throw in some chopped red onion, some sliced garlic, and because I like a little heat in my red sauce, one of those chopped up dried chilies from the first week's bag. And we'll just saute this for a little bit. When the onions and the garlic have had a chance to soften up a little bit, we're going to add our tomatoes. I think the primary herbal flavor in a red sauce should be basil. And if you have fresh basil, great. I don't right now, so I'm just going to use dried basil, and that's just fine. And also a little bit of dried oregano. So I don't know what that is, about a tablespoon of basil and a teaspoon of oregano. If I happen to have a bottle of red wine around, I'll throw in a shot of red wine to help flavor the sauce. And some people put sugar in their red sauce, but really, if you have good, ripe, sweet tomatoes like we get from Spring Hill, I don't think you need any sweetener at all. We're just going to boil this down now, reduce it slowly, let it simmer, and then we'll add some salt and adjust the seasoning as necessary. This year we planted one zucchini plant in our backyard, and we've been happily harvesting some baby zucchini pretty much every day. And then this week we got a little bit busy and turned our backs on that zucchini plant for about 48 hours, and this happened. So we're going to use our red sauce today to make a zucchini lasagna, where we use zucchini in place of lasagna noodles. I've washed and trimmed up the zucchini, and now I'm going to use this mandolin to make some flat lasagna noodle-like slabs. So here is our red sauce. After simmering for a little over an hour, I've added some salt and tasted it a couple times to make sure the seasoning is just right. And this is ready to go over pasta or polenta, or in our case, we're going to make a lasagna. Putting together the zucchini lasagna is pretty simple. We're just going to layer the zucchini, our red sauce, and this grated cheese, which is a mixture of mozzarella and cheddar, and fill up the pan. On the top layer, we'll make sure we have plenty of sauce and plenty of cheese. One thing to keep in mind is that the zucchini will release some liquid. So you'll want to cook this in an oven at a pretty low temperature, 250, 275, for a fairly long amount of time to let some of that liquid evaporate. And here is our zucchini lasagna.